It's really common for a child to be counting down the days to the summer holiday, only to finally get there and feel overwhelmed once that long summer break actually starts. And at first, this can really feel like a contradiction because school has been genuinely demanding for them. They are ready for that break. But the long summer holiday doesn't remove all demands from the brain. It just changes the nature of the demand being placed upon them. So let me talk you through the different types of demand that they are going to face over the summer break and how we can support with that. One thing I've noticed over the years is that when children say, I'm bored, they're not always describing the same thing. Sometimes they really are bored and they need something interesting or challenging to engage with. So they need that stimulation. But sometimes they are in a more sort of hypoactive state. They've reached the end of a long, demanding day. Perhaps you've, had a lovely day out. They're recovering from a very long summer term at school. They are mentally and physically drained. And what they really need is rest, a kind of gentle, restorative, nourishing movement, and time to recover. Now, other children are in a hyperactive state and they seem restless and agitated. Perhaps they're silly and argumentative. It's almost like this wired tired. So they're constantly on the go because they're kind of overwhelmed or seeking movement and seeking sensory input. Now, from the outside, those two different states can look remarkably similar. And that's why they're sometimes sort of confused by what state they're in. They feel ill at ease. They don't feel at ease. So because they're not quite sure how they're feeling, they tend to resort to saying, I'm bored. And they're really saying, I don't know what to do with myself. So understanding the state that your child is in when they say that they're bored can be much more helpful in responding appropriately than just getting frustrated with them for saying they're bored. So let's have a think about how we can help in that situation. So rather than just trying to fill every moment with activities to prevent this I'm bored statement, think about creating a gentle framework for the week. Make a really visible plan for the week so the children know roughly what's coming up, what activities you do have planned, without every single hour being scheduled. There needs to be a little bit of flexibility there, whilst providing sufficient planning so that there is some predictability. They've got some idea what's coming up from one day to the next. But alongside any trips or activities, deliberately include quieter recovery days too. And one strategy I really like is to have an ideas board somewhere in the house so that whenever someone thinks of something that they'd like to do, they can write it on the board. Then rather than trying to think of ideas, every morning or at the beginning of every week, you can choose something together that matches your child's energy levels. And you might have a few ideas up on the board at the time, and they can go and choose something that is going to match their energy levels for that day. It reduces decision fatigue as well, and the children have got some choice and sense of flexibility in how they're spending their time. We don't want to recreate a very rigid school type itinerary. We just want to reduce that decision fatigue and that lack of certainty, that lack of predictability. And in all of this, I think it's important that we encourage a mindset shift here, particularly for families of neurodivergent children, because it's easy to feel that we need to keep children busy all the time, keep up with everybody else, do what everybody else is doing, have all the wonderful photos in lots of different locations throughout the summer break. But busy doesn't always mean beneficial for your child. A successful summer isn't measured by how many activities you've necessarily crammed in, and we have definitely made that mistake before as a family. It's about recognizing the state that your child is in and creating enough structure and predictable patterns around them to support rest whilst keeping them stimulated, regulated, sufficient connection, creativity, and recovery time. And sometimes the most valuable thing you can build into the week isn't yet another outing, but a space for the child to make some choices, fill their own cup. Because very often the expression, I'm bored, is not necessarily a cry for wanting more to do. It's, I'm not actually sure how I'm feeling and I need help working that out. I think the key point to remember here is that different behaviours can reflect different underlying needs. And the more we understand what state our child is in, the more likely we are to choose the right support that genuinely helps in that moment. So before jumping in with another activity to keep them occupied and to keep them quiet, just pause and ask yourself, what is it that they actually need in this moment? Is it another activity to keep them stimulated, or is it something quite different to help them regulate themselves? And just having this change in shift and emphasis can change how the whole summer break feels for the whole family, because we're providing what they need. Do follow along for more on supporting neurodivergent children and changing the narrative from what seems to be wrong to what is very much possible for young neurodivergent minds. And if you are concerned about your child's confidence, then do take a look at my free guide, which is 3 shifts to support your neurodivergent child's confidence. I will leave a copy to that in the link below, and you can also find it in my bio. Thanks for being here. See you soon.